I guess I need more academia in my life if you're watching
I,
college courses
yeah,
and I'm
I don't
watching
know.
The
I don't know.
Office.
Honestly, I think I'd be better served to have a little bit more Curb Your Enthusiasm knowledge in my life. I
Everything's a
think we're
balance, right?
live. Like
Oh,
this is us. We're just,
You are almost ready to go. Yep.
okay.
You are ready to go. Okay, we are live.
all right.
Good morning, Zionsville.
Good morning.
We had a handful of questions coming in today. But maybe we want to just sort of give you a little bit of an overview of where things stand with regard to COVID-19 and the governor's guidance and where Zionsville is in terms of sort of addressing that guidance. We've had some good conversations with the Chamber of Commerce and other business owners and kind of advisory committees around how to break down the guidance and apply it to different use cases here in Zionsville. Retail is going to look different from hospitality dining. And we're also looking at what that means for the town of Zionsville and how it transitions away from what's been, a lockdown, COVID-19, work from home kind of approach to starting to ramp up and have, more folks return to town hall. So with regard to, maybe we'll start with town hall first, because that's really the area that we have spent more time thinking through. We are truly operating so well with our current situation that we're going to have a staged approach to returning to full business as usual in town hall. We want to go slow so that we can kind of learn with the rest of the state how this rollout works and how things go. We do not plan to rent or schedule external groups in our public meeting spaces indefinitely. We're going to make sure that we handle the essential business of the town first and keep our employees in an environment that has a really clear process for maintaining a healthy environment in town hall. We currently have our temperature checks and require masks in all spaces where it's not you can't close the door. We'll continue that as we start to bring more staff back on into town hall on a rolling basis. So today we may have one person or two people in an office. If you can close your door for an office, then then you may come and work from town hall. We'll continue that practice and we'll gradually increase the number of people in the open spaces that return. We will not right out of the gate open up town hall for business to be conducted in person. We have a variety of different mechanisms that we put into place that's allowed us to continue to meet the needs of citizens, business owners, people who want to apply for permits, for example. We're going to maintain that for a period of time. But after, we're going to put on the calendar the date that we'll start to schedule people to come in and conduct business face to face. But it will be by appointment only. We've got some things that we want to put into place in terms of the personal protection equipment for our staff. Probably put up some of the plexiglass shields and things like that where there's counter service available. So we want to take time to get those pieces of equipment installed and just, move methodically through a step-by-step evolution. Josh, do you want to talk a little bit about your thoughts with regard to holding public meetings and conducting business in that direction?
Yeah, so if you've been following, we've had our last 2 town council meetings virtually, and I think they ran fairly well. One was a pretty benign meeting, and one had, what I consider a regular meeting with presentation, some remonstration, and kudos to Pat Taylor and Amy Lacey for helping us run those meetings, both from a technology standpoint and from a facilitation standpoint. I have asked all other boards and commissions, everything from Board of Police Commissioners, Planning Commission, Parks Committee, every commission that we have, to meet virtually in the month of May until we reassess. So our council, our next meeting is Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. It will also be over Zoom, as well as being streamed on YouTube, much like this is. And then we're going to wait and see. We are allowed, per governor's orders, to continue to meet virtually through, I believe, June 6th. So we will see on the next evening meeting for council, which I believe is June 4th. So it's that first Monday in June, if that'll be virtual or live. What we want to make sure that we're able to do, if meeting in person, is having the processes and policies in place to allow counselors to be safe, but more importantly, to make sure that staff is safe and make sure that anyone from the public that wants to come is safe. I think, it'll be interesting to see what the world looks like coming out of this. It will look different. I think there's no question about that. One of the pieces of feedback I've gotten is that these Zoom type meetings have been helpful. So, I'm anxious to have them in person. I think they're always better in person. I think it's just easier for the public to see them all together. But having some kind of combination in-person Zoom meeting where someone could watch the meeting via Zoom while we're in person, they can certainly still attend as they want to, may end up coming out of this as well, where you can see each individual counselor, seeing them talk instead of just seeing the wide screen of the whole council chambers there, which sometimes can be hard to follow. So TBD on June. We'll look really, as we have across, we've been consistent, I think, in this. What the state recommends is what we're doing. So there is no confusion. We don't want different rules for Zionsville and Boone County and the state. So as the state recommends, we're following. You see that with our restaurants that are now open. They were open yesterday, and we had people out there yesterday, I was hearing. So glad to see things starting to reopen. But again, we'll rely on the level of expertise that the state has, as well as, we're blessed to have Dr. Alex Choi on our council this year, and he's been a great help in providing us guidance in what should we be doing, again, to keep the public and keep staff safe.
Super. So we did have a couple of questions that came in. One of them was with regard to the PNC lot, and wanted to know what was the plan for that area. We have put in a request to demo the building. And by doing that, we've reached out to a couple of vendors who take care of things like this, and we're soliciting proposals to find the best price and the best fit for that project. Our plan is to remove the building initially and get the lot itself prepared to the point where it could be used for parking, not long-term parking, but really more of a short-term approach for parking. The longer-term project is to start to look at that entire entryway and think through what can we do with that space for traffic flow, for potential commercial development, or something that would support commercial development. We want to think through the farmers market and how we might fit that plan into the overall design. But that's really something that I see us working on, much later. The first immediate piece is just to remove it and take advantage of the reduced traffic in the area so that it won't be as much of a nuisance for the demolition process. And with regard to the farmers market, the farmer's market will be held at Town Hall in the Town Hall parking lot this summer. We're working on some plans and logistics with the farmer's market team that organizes that for our community, to make sure that there's ample parking available, that the way that the format and the design of the market is addressing any sort of needs or concerns related to COVID-19. They've done a lot of work putting plans into place to keep our community safe while visiting the farmers market. So it will look a little bit different. I don't think that they're going to have prepared food and some of the other components that might just be harder to logistically deal with during this time frame. But it is good news that we will see the farmers market return, and that will be here soon.
And I would, keep an eye on their Facebook page, keep an eye on their communications, just so you're not surprised by some of the changes that they may have to implement. Again, it's all in the name of safety and guidance that they're getting. They're doing, I think, the best they can under unknown circumstances. And I look forward to going there this summer.
My planning skills are a little bit behind because I apparently did not prepare to charge my iPad.
I was wondering what was going on. It was that
Bear
we
with
could get
me.
a tour of the
I
house.
get a little bit, dizzy as I move everything around. All right, there we go.
There we go.
7% was not going to last for the rest of this period. So another thing that we're sort of trying to work on with the Chamber of Commerce and downtown restaurants is the possibility of having an outdoor dining experience on Main Street one night a week. There's a lot that we need to kind of figure out logistically, but it is something that we think might be a fun opportunity for diners and restaurants to get outside and provide an alternative eating venue. So hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll have a lot more to talk about with regard to that. All right, we had another question come through. I'm trying, and I'm looking for it, but I don't see where.
I've got it if you want, Mayor.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Thanks.
The question is, what value add does Zionsville offer the rural community of Southern Perry Township? When will Zionsville start investing our tax dollars into this community in a positive way, resulting in maintaining the rural setting and lifestyle? Why does Zionsville not adhere to their own rural comprehensive plan? And I'm happy to take a crack at this one if you want, because it is somewhat related to a council, something we passed.
You bet. And I also, I did ask for a little bit of background about this with Wayne. So I've got a couple of things maybe that I can add to, but yeah, let's get us started. So
there's kind of I'm going to take a 50,000 foot level view to this and then kind of work my way down. You may or may not know, so Perry Township joined with Zionsville, and we're very happy they did. They chose to, instead of remaining independent through the reorganization process that happened, about 5 years ago, join into Zionsville and become a part of the Zionsville community. They are basically west of I-65. There's land out there that is also a part of Zionsville. You may not even know that. So that reorganization did a lot of different things for our community. In fact, it also allowed us to have a mayor. It was voted on by the community. So when Perry Township joined, it then became kind of part of our comprehensive plan. If you think about investment in Perry Township, it gets a little convoluted because we have two different real designations within Zionsville. There's what's known as rural and urban. And really those are just service areas. The rural service area oftentimes is serviced by the county. So they have the sheriff office that is servicing them. They do have Zionsville Fire Department, but they also have county roads and a lot of county services, whereas the urban area is serviced by Zionsville. So it's Zionsville Streets and Wastewater. It is Zionsville Police Department, Zionsville Fire Department. And all of it has nothing to do with the schools. That's a whole other story we won't get into. So if we think about investment, we're also looking at investment from the county, and we're also looking at investment with our friends and partners over in Whitestown. So for example, in Perry Township, Whitestown is actually the wastewater and the water service for that area. Perry Township as a whole is pretty big, much like Zionsville is big. And so there are certainly no plans to pave over all of Perry Township and turn it into a big commercial area. However, there's also no plans to leave it all entirely rural. It will be a mixture of some commercial, some retail, some rural, much like Zionsville is today. And so if you think about the comprehensive plan that this question brought up, a comprehensive plan is really, what is the vision for the community over the next 5 to 7 years? And ours is about 5 to 7 years old. And so it is really something that I think we need to, and I believe, Mayor, we're looking at redoing and re-looking at, all right, with the new Zionsville, with inclusive of Perry Township, what does that look like? Where might there be development? What will stay mostly rural? What may have a more commercial component to it, and build off of that? All of that will take time. And like I said, with Perry Township being so big, not expecting, massive development over there. But there is some development going on there. And in fact, in the last town council meeting, council approved with the planning commission's recommendation, a second industrial building that was going to be built there, with some commitments from the developer for a neighborhood that exists back there, for everything from water to buffering of land to landscaping that came along with that. So I think you'll still see some development like that in that area, quite honestly, but not the entirety of Perry Township. And Mary, you're happy to add on to any of that kind of general summary.
I appreciate that. I wanted to get a little bit of history around this area too, but coming into this just this year with regard to kind of the impact of Perry Township and its annexation into the town of Zionsville through the reorg process. And I know that I've lived in Zionsville for since 1999. That's when my house started. My first house was under construction, and it's changed a ton just in that time frame in terms of the neighborhoods that have grown and the way the population has grown. So it just stands to reason that to some degree that's what a community is about. It's about growing. It's about being more vibrant. It's about having more diversity in the types of growth that it brings about, because that's what helps deliver services to the residents. There's a relationship between those two things, and you don't want to try to be too heavy in any one particular area. You want to try to find that sweet spot of a little bit of tension between the different types of growth, but understanding that that is what helps an economy, a local economy, grow and address issues and opportunities moving forward. I have seen personally the changes in land use patterns that fall around that 65 thoroughfare. I remember when Royal Run was built and the Anson development started, that had been farmland before. And I understand also that if you are a person who is currently in a rural environment, and that's what you're accustomed to, you have a desire to see that stay that way, that you enjoy that living, and an encroachment of different types of development is disrupting that way of life that you enjoy. That's a truth, and we understand that. And there have been planning documents that for years have looked at the Perry Township area as an opportunity to grow and develop in a variety of different ways. And that unfortunately does create the tension that we're seeing with some of the folks who are living in homes that were originally, zoned residential in the early 2000s, and that, their development predated what some of the growth patterns are that have evolved really because of, again, that 65 interchange and the opportunity that it provides. So yeah, I think that's really the situation that we're in as we look at Perry Township, is balancing what are the opportunities that it provides for the whole community, the whole town. And I think that the economic opportunities are being presented in such a way that does add a lot of value to the town of Zionsville.
That's a good explanation, Mayor. I had heard some rumors over the last year or so that, there was some commitment from Zionsville never to develop anything in Perry Township as part of the reorganization or something around that. And I've asked anyone that was involved in that whole reorganization plan, and that just is a rumor that I don't know where the source came from, but is not based on any sort of fact. I think the other thing to think about too, and some of the history around this is, if you remember, there was a constitutional amendment that capped property taxes at 1% back in 2008. And at that point, Zionsville was 97% residential and was high tax and high service, and sort of had the rug pulled out from under us. Commercial is capped at 3%, multifamily at 2%. So some commercial development, and not exclusively commercial development, but some goal, and I think the most recent goal was an 80-20 mix of residential commercial. Some goal to have commercial in there to diversify the economy and the sources of income, and to take advantage of some of these types of projects has been out there for a long, long time. So I see that continuing as like I said, you don't want to build nothing but distribution centers, and you don't want to build nothing but homes. You want a diverse economy with different price points and different sources of employment and different sources of revenue for the government. And that's what's been implemented for a long time. And we are continuing that together.
Super.
Yep, good question. Thanks for reaching out.
Yeah. So we can give you a couple of updates too, since we just received the 2 questions. The Sycamore Street Bridge is still on track. We had a couple of folks reach out last week wondering if anything was behind schedule. There was some maybe a little less activity going on, but typically when you see something like that happen, it's because they're getting geared up for the next phase. And we checked in with the county. As you may recall, the bridges are projects that are managed by our county public works team. It's not something that our town actually manages, but Craig Parks reported that everything is on track and on schedule, and should be seeing some of the new features or the improvements to the structure coming online just as expected this summer. Zionsville Road is substantially complete. There are still some nagging utility work still to get done, but for the most part, it's ready to go. I drove on it last night, and it was exciting. It was great to see.
Yeah.
The street lights look wonderful, and the pathway is coming together. That is really going to be a nice finished project.
Looking good.
So the Iron Gate Drainage Improvement Project is expected to be completed at the end of this month. So that's that activity that you've seen along Oak Street maybe hampering your clear sight of how to get into the post office right now, but it'll be finished up soon. And we have pre-construction meetings for a variety of 2020 projects that are coming up. They're road rehab projects, if you recall from our last 2-week adventure with Lance. 2020 paving projects that are coming up, all of the Rain Tree subdivision. You're welcome, Counselor. Mulberry.
I had nothing to do with that, but I will, my neighbors are happy.
Happen, Rain Tree. He made it all happen. Mulberry Street from Ash Street to Ford Road. Ash Street from Mulberry Street to Maple Street. Mayfield Lane. Iron Gate Drive. Valley Meadow Drive, and Colony Court. And the 2019 paving projects that are complete or have started include Waterford Drive and Waterford Court, Ford Road from Bloor Lane to Mulberry Street, Ford Road from the I-865 overpass to Oak Street. I love that. I'm excited. That's been fantastic to drive on. Pine Street from 6th Street to 1st Street, Eisenhower Hills Drive. I don't think I know how to say this road. Andrade? Do you know?
DeAndre? The DeAndre Drive?
Okay, that must be it. That one. Tilson Drive and Ravinia's subdivision. So woohoo! Lots of work. There's a couple of projects that fall under the Community Crossing grant that, if you recall, we were awarded this year. The Iron Gate Drive will get a full reconstruction as a result of those grant dollars. Mulberry Street will be a new repair and reconstruction project. Ash Street from Mulberry to Maple will have a repair and a resurfacing project coming from those funds. And finally, Mayfield Lane will be a repair and resurfacing project. So in the Parks Department, we have progress on 2 new playgrounds. They are under construction still, but mostly just finishing up the punch list items. That's the Lions Park, they call it the tot lot, that's in the very back of the park towards the tennis courts. And then the new Elm Street Green playground that'll be down as you descend the hill closer to the picnic table. Facebook Live sessions from the Nature Center continue and will be continued all month through Facebook Live. And the golf course is still closed, but I know the Parks Department and the Parks Board, who manage that process, are working on a plan on how to phase some of the openings with regard to the park's features. I think that they're getting definitely a lot of inquiries, particularly for the golf course. And I've been assured that they are working on a plan, and will continue to keep track of that on your behalf as well.
Yeah, most of those inquiries are coming from me.
You are definitely one of the more persistent inquiries, but there are other folks out there too who.
Oh, yeah. And I believe they're talking about it at the Parks Board meeting tomorrow.
I think so.
So I think they're anxious to get it open.
Yeah. I think that it's, that the one thing that it's important for all of us in the community to understand is that maintaining business as usual for the town is expensive right now. We have to have a lot of extra cleaning protocols in place, and frankly, the demand for all of the supplies that we need here, everyone else needs too. So the availability of the materials that we need to make sure that our employees are safe, that's important for all of us who employ workers during this time frame, and also to make sure our customers are safe. And the golf course is a lovely asset to our community. but it is also one that operates on a razor thin margin, quite
Mhm.
honestly. And so trying to understand how to manage that tension of the increased costs and the concern for employees' welfare and the desire to provide this amenity to the town is what are part of these conversations as we're moving forward. Hey, who's seen a police officer on a bicycle in their neighborhood lately? Pretty cool. The deputy mayor texted me recently and said that there were police officers on bikes in her neighborhood. And I am waiting, Chief Spears, to see some bicycle past my house. Maybe I need to sit on the front porch a little bit more too, though. That could be part of my problem. They're definitely working to increase their activity and their visibility during these warmer summer months. So when you see one of our fine police officers out on the streets, give them a shout out. Let's see. So due to some of the delays caused by COVID-19 mail sanitizing procedures, some of the wastewater and trash April payment processing was delayed, and bills were mailed a little later than normal. They were sent out on Friday, May 8th. They are still due on the last Friday of the month. So just keep in mind, you will see a little bit of delay in the bill, but we'd appreciate, you all being able to get the payment in on time despite that delay. So be sure that there's so many different places that you can go online to find information about COVID-19. And we try not to recreate the wheel. But if you visit our website where we list the COVID-19 resources, we are linking to the sites that we have found to be the most useful and helpful and provide the best up-to-date information. There is a PPE marketplace that has opened, and the goal is purely to help all constituents across the economy, the market, the community, to have the personal protection equipment that they need to be able to conduct business or to participate in going to work and going out to shop safely during this time frame. So if you visit our website and click on the COVID-19 resources, we've got a link to that particular marketplace. And if you haven't seen, there is a new free testing site at Lebanon High School. It opens Wednesday, the 13th. It's open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. You want to go there to get tested if you have symptoms of COVID-19 or you have come in close contact with someone who has been diagnosed with COVID, even if you don't have symptoms yet. These are the two populations that are eligible for this free testing at this point. You're due to the risk that they pose for you as in your own personal health safety and for the community. Yeah, that's it. I think that's.
So there's a couple of other questions that came in there.
Okay, super.
Just so you know, so one of them was around golf carts. Can we see about making a plan for golf carts to get from Cedar Bend, far north development, to downtown? As of now, we cannot get there with the current road restrictions. Last year, we passed a golf cart ordinance that allowed residents to drive golf carts on some town streets. Some streets are prohibited, as well as trails. So for me here in Raintree, who owns a golf cart, it is confined here to Raintree because we can't go on the trail into town, and we can't go onto the roads into town. One of the things that we did, and this was an initiative that was led by Councilor Jason Plunkett, was really consider this a living and breathing ordinance, in the sense that we wanted to and initiate this ordinance, see how many people registered their golf carts. You had to have a registration from the police department. You have to have certain amenities on it, headlights, taillights, things like that. And then take some time to make sure that it was safe for everyone. The last thing we want to see is someone driving a golf cart on a road that's 45 miles an hour and having an accident happen. So the answer to that is yes, we plan to relook at that. We'll ask for advice from our new police chief as well, Chief Spears, to see his thoughts on that. I love the concept. I'm a big believer of it. And like I said, I own one. And so for that specific route, I couldn't answer for it right now, but I know I've heard from others, and including some counselors that are interested in seeing if they can expand the routes available again in a safe way to allow for this type of activity to let you go in larger distances. So that is that one. Mayor, this one maybe for you. There are a number of streets in Zionsville that have no sidewalks. One example is Greenfield Road, aka 121st Street, aka East 550 South. It's a lot of road names on the street side. It's between the Carmel border to the east of Michigan Road to the west and Willow Road to the west of that. Is there any overall plan in the works to install sidewalks, pathways along streets in Zionsville where sidewalks don't currently exist?
So there is a pathway plan. What I don't have access to the exact locations and where they fall on that plan. I think the key is that there are a number of places where the pathway or the sidewalk there's a gap in it. And typically what we strive to do is get those projects started when there is some private investment that can go along with the construction, so that it's not 100% on the town's budget to fix those gaps. There's a certain amount of money that's spent every year from the town's budget on pathways and on sidewalks, but that is there often projects come about because there is some other level of development that's happening in that area that can help to offset the town's costs for building those connections. Let's make sure we get the question itself to Lance so that later on we can make a social media post to address that specific location and what the plans might currently be.
And we have, just so everyone knows, we have a pathway committee. This is a group of volunteers that spend their time looking at, with unlimited demand and limited resources, where should we be making those investments? And you may remember a couple of years ago, we hired an outside consultant to come in and run public meetings where people could come in. And it was actually quite neat. You would fill out a map of where paths would personally benefit you. And they aggregated all that data and basically created a heat map for the pathway committee to say the most demand was in X, whether it was extending the Big Four rail trail or sidewalks here or a pathway here. Zionsville Road was a big one, and you see there are no paths going along Zionsville Road. And so that is part of the process of how we come up with that, is they effectively come up with a master plan. They present that to town council. Council and the mayor then works on budgeting for paths and sidewalks. And then with some recommendations from Mr. Lance, we go ahead and implement that. So it is a multi-step process, but I think your point there, Mayor, on getting a definitive answer through social media from Lance is a good one. Speaking of Lance, and the last question I have that Amanda sent over here, you had mentioned Ford Road, driving on that earlier. Ford Road south of Oak, and this is the question, is being worked on for the third time in 12 months. It appears to this individual that the construction company did it incorrectly the first two times. Did Zionsville still incur the cost of that work, or at least the cost of the fixes? Do you know the answer to that one?
I don't know that they were done incorrectly the first time. I'm not certain exactly what the person who submitted the question is specifically referring to, but it could have something to do with those phases of work that Lance described last week or 2 weeks ago. It looks, when certain stages of a resurfacing project takes place, the road looks worse for a while before it gets better. And if someone is thinking that road work that was done last fall that left the road jagged and bumpy and poorly filled in, that wasn't a project that had been completed. That was a phase in the overall project that is now completed. Did that make sense?
I think that makes sense. And it was a question that came in at the last minute, so I wish we had a better answer. I seem to remember too, part of Ford Road is a county road. And don't quote me on that entirely, but I thought part of it was a county road. In some of the work, and I know what this person is referring to, it was pretty bad for a while because I was had to drive in oncoming traffic to go around it. I think it might have been a county project. So it may happen that we're working on the same road not at the same time, but working in the same area. But it's actually a combination of the county doing some work earlier in the year and then us doing the work later in the year.
Yeah, that county portion, the part that it goes along 96th Street West, and then that goes up Ford Road to the little part of the hill, that then starts to level off again. That county project was conducted last year.
Yeah.
And for the most part was really well done. It was the part that came back later and started chunking up some of the potholes and filling it in with the really kind of, I call it crummy, not CRUMM, but CRUMB kind of gravel stuff. And that was there for a good portion of the last season. And it wasn't very fun to drive on. But I think that was what Lance was covering for, the work that is trying to dig into the problems and excavate it so that it can have a certain level of treatment applied to it before the final paving.
I also think, and now I'm going way outside my area of expertise, but you absorb so much in talking with Lance. I believe some of that was done with what was called cold mix. So the asphalt plants don't open up until the spring. You have to do work in the late fall or the winter. You have to use cold mix, which is better than a pothole, but not as permanent and starts chunking
exactly.
up. And so I imagine some of that was cold mix and they've come back and redone it with hot mix now that plant's back open again.
Yep, precisely. Yeah.
All right, I think I got that mostly.
Oh, we
right.
all together,
we
almost, I know, we were like almost.
Yes.
Like good students for Lance.
That's right. That's right. I don't see any other questions unless Amanda has anything. Hope everyone stays safe. Our restaurants are open. I know they're doing their best to stay safe, both for their staff and for you, in operating with state guidelines. So visit them, visit our retailers. Do what you're comfortable with, but I'm certainly comfortable that to be out there and visiting those folks.
And continue to follow all the protocols, social distancing, masks, and we'll get through this. And the more we all kind of play by the rules, I think the faster we'll see loosening of restrictions later on. I would really love my children to go back to school too. So that's something that
I think you speak
really,
for a lot
really,
of parents.
Really, really, really hoping that we all just keep that as a goal.
Yes. Well, I saw from Amanda, no more questions. So
all right.
Look forward to talking again in a couple of weeks.
Yep. Be well.
Take care.